good, Trae.
How are you?
I'm good, love. I'm good.
Yeah, well, I've seen you out there in the community doing your thing. I love seeing you at Through the Eyes of Art. As an MC, of course, you bring this flair of comedy, but you bring such a strong dynamic of storytelling with acts on stage. And I've gotten to see your work, and I'm always blown away. Tell us a bit about this story here, Pipeline.
Pipeline. Awesome story, awesome play. One, I have to give credit to, my main get down, Michelle Lang Raymond, who said, Isaiah, we got to do this piece. We got to do this piece. And I was like, well, it's already done here. I don't want to compete with nobody else. And she said, just read the story. And I did. And I fell in love with the story. And because the name is Pipeline, a lot of people will think, oh, school to prison pipeline. And it has an essence of that in it, but it's about stories. It's about family. It's about relationships. It's about how dysfunction will lead a young Black or a kid of color into that school to prison pipeline with no way out. And so this story is just very powerful. It's about family, and the relationships that stem from home, that bleed into the community, that'll bleed into the schools, that will ultimately have our young men bleeding in the prison systems.
This right here is, I think for so many of us, one that hits close to home. And particularly when we talk about story, oftentimes what I experience in any type of live theater is, how do I see myself in the story?
Absolutely.
One of the ways that you all have really anchored your lived experience, you and Michelle, in the work you do, is to really be intentional about the stories y'all pick up. Tell us a bit about that process, because you're saying, yeah, it's been done before, but there's something clearly very different that acts on stage, and you pulling together a cast, y'all bringing forth this story that can really be different for others. Tell us about that process.
Absolutely. The process is really, Trae, if I can be 100 with you, it's about how God moves in our lives. It's how the purpose of Acts on Stage is that we want to give voice to people of color and people of faith. And so it's always with that we feel like we need families and our audiences to see themselves, right? And the cast will tell you, whenever I'm working with them, it's all about what the audience member is going to take away. What is it they're going to sit and go, yep, I know somebody like that, or that's me, right? And it's very important. So Michelle and I will sit, and talk about the show and the direction in which we want the show to go. And when it's all said and done, we walk away with a great piece, with great experiences, and audience members, of course, at Acts on Stage, who get to, experience the Q&A afterwards, just sit in exactly what we want them to sit in.
Yeah, there's also something I think that's unique about the approach Acts on Stage takes when it comes to casting. And I would love to hear that from your perspective, because sometimes folks don't understand the logistics behind pulling a show like this together. Tell us some of that process that you go through to say, we need to put the notice out there, but the audition process and everything else, a lot of times that can be strenuous for young actors coming into it. But being able to bring that kind of community feel and that relationship forward in that process. Tell us how you take that on.
Whew. My audition process is that of just, I gotta feel it, right? Michelle and the rest of the crew will take care of the technical stuff of, I said, we're gonna get it out there, we're gonna put this out there. And when I'm in front of the auditioners, I'm just feeling, I'm just getting a feel of, ooh, this person would be great. And that person will say to me, I've never done this before. And I'm like, I'm not tripping, I got you. And so it's about feeling. It's about, can they relate to the story? Of course, us being a theater that is community-based, I always want to ask the question, hey, is there anything in life that's going to prevent you from really living into this character, right? And we've had some people go, one young lady in particular told me, she said, I'm just thinking, I got a bunch of followers, so I can't, have anything to do with drinking or anything like that. So in the scene where there's drinking, I'll just say, none for me, thank you. And I told her, none for me, thank you.
Right.
Go on about you, get on. But it's about feeling. And so we get people who have come and have never touched a stage before, but are capable of, through the work that we do at Acts on Stage, bringing it to life. And so it's just a
Love that.
wonderful, wonderful experience. Every time for me, it's new.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, because you do work with a lot of folks who have never done it before, and that means you're guiding them through this process to embed a new character. And oftentimes that means that they have to be drawing from their lived experience in order to really bring that emotionality and that characterization out for the audience to be able to absorb them.
Absolutely.
But that means there's something special in your sauce that you're putting in the mix, right? To really work with folks who have never done it before. And I know there's a lot of theaters who will stray away from that.
Right.
But y'all lean into that. Why is that important in terms of the approach that Acts on Stage takes to bring these works out to the community?
I'll say it's more about me and my background, that I've never technically been trained. I got my chops when I was 13, 14 back home in Chicago, performing, doing shows and dance contests. And then I come to Seattle, and I was blessed to be engaged with the Langston Hughes Cultural Arts Center at the time. And so having mentors like Umeme and Steve Sneed and Darcel and Dr. Tanya Pettiford Waits, those individuals really allowed me to just use what I had naturally. And so I took that and said, well, I want to use what everyone has naturally. Right. And it's harder, believe it or not, to work with people who have been trained. Mm-hmm. Right. Because then you got to break down all of that training to get them to do what you need them to do. And so it's really my own experience that I'm allowing to go. Don't pigeonhole anybody because they don't have training, because you didn't.
Well, earlier this week, I got to tap in with Sam and Elias and learn more about Renaissance 20. And that there is, Acts on Stage saying we're going to really open up our doors to usher in, opportunities for young talent to find their voice and to kind of anchor themselves in the field of creativity. Just quickly, tell us how you see that process working in terms of what you just described, working with folks who have never done it before. Now it's going to be a bunch of young folks that get to actually have that experience as well.
Well, I think number one, you just mentioned Sam and Elias. My God, those two individuals alone. And then we have, Erica Walker, who's going to be teaching choir and vocals. And so just bringing in the right people. Acts on Stage, like in anything in life for us, has always been about team. Mm-hmm. It's been about who we can get to work with us. And so it becomes, the aura and the just everything in what we do. We want the culture to be that of you be you, and then we can make things happen together.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being you and for bringing these opportunities out to folks who have never touched a stage, but then who really emote so well. The audience sees themselves in it and feels every word. I can't wait to see Pipeline. I'm so excited to be there. Make sure folks know how they get their tickets. Where do they go? When does the show start? Look right there. Let them know.
Here you go. Listen, if you go to our website, actsonstage.com, you will find everything. I promise you, every social media, tickets, our show, right? /Pipeline is where you go. And it's all good. Michelle gonna kill me. But anyway, this is how we get down. Trae, can I say this?
Please.
You are the queen of queens when it comes to this work. You are awesome. And everything we see you do, we're so proud of you, man. And you just continue doing you.
Thank
you. Making this city and this state, this culture proud.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That means the world.
Yes.
From a young girl who grew up at Langston to New Black Arts, like all of the things that I was able to do, it's the community that anchors me and allows me to do this work. Thank you so much.
You're it.
I will take that with me forever.
Yes.
Oh my